Hi everyone, welcome to our ongoing series on how to implement a life operating system by defining what matters most to us in life, then working toward it consistently. I'm splitting this into a two-part video series. This one you're watching now is on the annual review process. The video to follow is on the annual planning process. You should implement these two parts together either at the beginning of the year or at any time of the year that you choose to do your 12-month review and planning. It does not need to follow the calendar year, though for many of us, that's a good time with the slower pace of the holidays being a natural time for reflection. This annual review process that I'm going to present in this video works even if you're not using our full Pillars Pipelines and Vault system. It functions as a standalone process, though it has significant benefits when integrated with the larger PPV system and Notion covered on this channel. There is emergence that occurs when using the whole system, but this can totally stand on its own even if you're not using the system. So this is going to be valuable to anyone who wants to reflect and learn from the past year and then pour that insight into a smart, well-designed year coming forward. I also have separate previous videos on the monthly review and the weekly review, which when using the entire system, those weekly and monthly reviews automatically flow and inform the annual review process and template. I'll link to the videos on those review processes below. The annual review and planning process covered here is also good for starting a new system any time of year. So if you're just implementing a life operating system for the first time or implementing any kind of comprehensive life management system, doing this kind of annual review is a great way to kick off the initial use. So this is also a good guide to how to start putting this kind of broad, comprehensive systems thinking approach into practice in your own life. So this is a great video to start with if you want to go deeper into the rest of this series. This approach in this video is also different from others in that it's not just abstract and reflective, but super actionable. We first mine tangible life events, and then we interpret their meaning, then define life aspirations for the year, and then design specific actionable steps to get us there. So it's designed not to be this sort of abstract new agey process, which was a frustration I had when I tried to follow conventional wisdom on annual reviews. I wanted to make it more analytical, more rigorous, and more clear in the actionable steps to take to make things happen. So this is the result of several years of refinement trying to make something super actionable. So the general process is we define what we value most and find meaningful in life, then we break it into pieces to achieve throughout the year. So it's not an impossible dream, but a serious roadmap for action. Though we should set ambitious goals, make them reaches. Big goals fire us up and force us to grow faster. They ignite us in a way that small goals just don't. Really dream big and go for it. Most fundamentally, this high-level assessment is to ensure that the efforts you make day by day are focused in the right direction on the things that really matter. It's better to inefficiently work in the right direction than efficiently work in the wrong direction. Productivity is not what matters most. Productivity is just doing things more efficiently. This does not deliver big progress in life. Doing the right things in the right direction is far more important than any productivity gains. The annual review and planning process here identifies the right things for you and your life. Then the PPV system turbocharges life prioritization and alignment between your highest aspirations and your daily actions. Okay, so this annual review video and the annual planning video to follow will be an overview so that you can then take the proper amount of time to do it yourself. When implementing this process, carve out at least a half day, but really I recommend you do it over a full 2-day weekend to give it the time it deserves. This is your life. It's important. There is nothing more important. Health, family, career, mental clarity, life purpose, and meaning. This reflection and planning determines how you spend the most valuable resource you have, your time. Don't shortchange it. Commit to it. For a limited time after posting this video, I will make the Notion template shown in this video available as part of the free template pack that I share along with the newsletter signups, which is also free. You can always unsubscribe, but I hope you'll give the newsletter a chance. I work very hard to pack it with my best thinking. If you already subscribe to the newsletter, just submit the form again to get the link. It won't add you a second time if you use the same email address. The template will have all the questions and frameworks, but it cannot have the embedded linked databases since they need to be connected to the databases that you use in your own life operating system. In the template, I have markers on what to embed where. If you don't use Notion at all or don't use the PPV Life OS, no problem. Just use bullet point lists in each of the locations where the template indicates to insert databases. It works either way. Now let's dive in. If you're doing this annual process at the end of the year, first do your weekly review, then the December monthly review before the annual review. So those can flow into and inform your annual review. So let's dive in. If you're using the PPV system, these are in the alignment zone. If not, just use the template by itself once we get into it. But we'll access it in the review cycles toggle in the alignment zone. We have weekly, monthly, quarterly, and of course, annual. Open annual. And we'll have an entry in a database for each year. Now, I typically will do the entire review and planning process in a single year. But in reality, the review is about the previous year and the planning is about the upcoming next year. So in a sense, they belong in two separate years, but I like to keep it all together in one process. So I typically choose the upcoming year because I'm very forward thinking and I think the planning is the ultimate objective here. But since I'm doing separate videos on review and planning, I'll do the past year for the review and then the upcoming year for the planning. But if you're doing it all in one sitting, as I typically do in my process, I will sit down and just do it all in the upcoming year. Though if it feels more natural to you to do it in the past year, that doesn't matter. It's your choice. So opening up the past year, and we have the template here. Open to a full page, and we have the annual review. So I like to start by looking at the collection of accomplishments and disappointments. If you're using the PPV system, you will be maintaining an accomplishments database with all of the noteworthy, meaningful accomplishments you achieved throughout the year and the month it happened in, and a quick note on what worked and lessons for the future. Similarly, we'll be doing the same thing with disappointments and lessons or improvements for the future. We typically enter these during our weekly review, and we'll think of what were noteworthy accomplishments or disappointments. Now, one quick note, disappointments tend to be outcomes that were disappointing. Accomplishments can be outcomes or they can be steps along the way. So we celebrate accomplishments in many intervals toward an outcome and then the outcome itself. Disappointments, we typically just look at the outcome and derive lessons from that. We don't map every disappointment along the way because those aren't failures. They're just steps along the way, and you hit something and you have to rework it and find another way to achieve it and move forward. That's just the natural process. But with disappointments, we're really only looking at outcomes. With accomplishments, we're looking at both outcomes and steps toward the outcome. So typically you'll have a lot more accomplishments than disappointments. So we add these during the weekly reviews and then during the monthly reviews. And then of course, the annual review, we review the accomplishments to learn from them. And same with the disappointments. So let's review these, digest them, review what worked, review lessons for improvement. We'll check that off. We'll move forward. Now, if you're not using PPV and don't have accomplishments and disappointments databases, no problem. The template itself won't have these because you have to add your own linked databases for your accomplishments and disappointments. So these will be blank. All you need to do is you can either make a bullet list of your accomplishments and just reflect on what you did. If you have a list somewhere else, draw from that to add here. Just make a list of your accomplishments and disappointments with a note, maybe a dash, on lessons learned from that, why you were successful, why the disappointments occurred, and what you could have done better. Just map them out and get your mind moving on what happened over the past year. If you do use PPV and have your own database, you'll just type /linked, choose create linked database, select a database, you'll type in whatever you call it. If it's accomplishments, you'll type it in, you'll choose the right one, it'll bring it in, and then you'll drag it into the formatting in the template, and then you'll be all set. You can then, of course, customize your view. And that'll be true for all the databases, either the bullet point approach or the /linked database, insert the database that is labeled by the header above it. Okay, moving on, that's completed, we hit check. Next, we come into this area. Spend a lot of time in this area. This is really some of the meat of the process. We're going to conduct a deep reflection, interpretation, and visualization process. This is typically the longest part of the review, although you can spend more time on the system integration we'll get to after this if you'd like. But don't shortchange this. There is so much value in mining these experiences. So there are 3 segments to this 12-month assessment: reflecting on the past 12 months, interpreting, and then visualizing. Visualizing will be part of the next video where we get into planning the new year. So in this video, we're going to look at reflection and interpretation. Reflection, we're going to review our project or task manager, our calendar, our journal, or any other resource where we regularly documented activity over the past 12 months to really refresh our mind on what we did. What were the specific things we did? Who are we doing them with? Really get to the details of what happened over the past 12 months. And then we're going to ask ourselves a series of very specific questions. We're going to look at the people in our lives. Who mattered most in your life and how did they play that role? What was the role that the people who mattered most played? List all the people and how they were influential and important in your life over the past 12 months. Then where did meaningful things happen in your life? List all the key places, good and bad. You're really going deep into the actual places that were significant and where important things happened. And then experiences. What were the most meaningful events and experiences in your life over the past 12 months? List them, flesh this out in some detail. And then ultimately learning comes down to asking good questions. So I want you here to come up with your own questions. What are the best questions you could ask yourself to dig into the past 12 months? I want you to think of what are the questions that are going to probe insights, that are going to get you to go into parts of your life that were really significant and meaningful over the past 12 months. Not only answering them, but thinking of the actual questions themselves. Learning the skill of asking better questions is fundamental to becoming a better learner, which is the greatest foundation you can have in life for anything you do, is being an effective learner. It all starts with the questions you ask yourself. It will dramatically improve the speed and efficiency of your learning process if you can ask internal questions that cut to the chase, that get to the essence of things quicker. Here, think of the questions that would be most insightful at revealing your past year. You create a list of questions and then answer them. Then we get into interpretation. Interpret the significance behind those meaningful people, places, and experiences. Dig into the why behind them. We always want to understand the meaning behind things, the drive, the purpose, the why behind the things we do. So why were those people you listed above important and impactful in your life? Really spend some time reflecting on this, make a list, go away, do something else, come back, think about it some more. Why were these people important? Why were those places important and impactful in your life? Why were those experiences important and impactful in your life? List them out. Really think about it. And then ultimately, this culminates in what themes and reasons keep coming up repeatedly in the answers above to the why questions. What does this reveal about you? What you currently value and find meaningful in life? By digging into the why behind the importance of the people, places, and experiences of your past 12 months, you're going to start unveiling what you value in life and what gives life meaning to you. So you list out the why questions, then you're going to ask, what does that say about me? What does it say about what I value most? And what does it say about what I find meaningful in life? Write that out. Writing it out is really important. You cannot just think about it. Writing it out will reveal the gaps in your thinking and force you to think more deeply so that you can articulate it completely. When you just think and reflect, you skip beats and you let yourself off the hook. When you have to write it out, you go into so much more detail and it reveals gaps, then have to dig deeper to fill. So really take the time, write this out. Then you'll have this incredible treasure from years past that your future self can reflect on. And you can see your journey, your narrative over multiple years. Okay, and then we'll come back to visualization, building on those things when we get into the planning video in the next episode. All right, having finished that, we will check this off. If you're not part of the system or new to the system, for now, let's just make a list of bullet points of what you value most in life and what gives life meaning to you. Again, you're going to look no further than this last toggle up here, and that's going to give you a really strong indication of these things to list in your guiding principles. Once that's done, we'll check that off. There's an earlier video that I did on the alignment zone that talks about this, and I'm thinking about doing a special training on it. Let me know in the comments below if you'd like me to do some kind of workshop or training on guiding principles. I'd be happy to dig into that if there's interest. Okay, now we get to the system review. We have a life operating system where we identify our highest aspirations in life, break them down into manageable components and smaller pieces until we know day by day what to do to execute and move consistently toward our highest aspirations in life. Most people spend a lot of time working on a lot of things and just moving in the wrong direction because they have not created alignment between their highest level aspirations and their day-to-day, hour-to-hour activities. Our system is all about creating that alignment and focus on what matters most in order to make small, systematic, consistent steps towards our high-level aspirations. So now in this review session, we're going to look at what the system over the past 4 quarters can teach us and what we can learn from. And then the next video will go into how to plan it. So we have a series of steps here. Each of these checkboxes maps to a segment in a database below it. Just a quick glance. So we've got all these different segments of our system in order. There's a clear hierarchy here. So we'll go through them. So first we want to go through our pillar dashboards. And since we're doing the review now, the planning will come next. What were the highs and lows for each of my pillars over the past 12 months? Again, if you're not using the PPV system, you can delete this and make some bullet points on what the pillars of your life should be. Now, there's a whole nother video I did previously in the series on pillars. I'll link to it below. Just go watch that if you actually want to flesh out your pillars. But these are a categorization of each component of your life. The purpose of this is for organization, organizing your folder directories, organizing different aspects of your life for sorting and filtering if you're using Notion for a life operating system. So pillars are an organizational structure. They're not like what we see in other systems where they sometimes call them areas or of other terms where they're about maintaining a high level of performance or maintenance. This isn't about maintaining any level. It's just about categorization and organizing. But particularly those using the PPV system, we do have a dashboard for each pillar in our life, each category of our life. And in that dashboard, you can get an overview of everything happening in that aspect of your life. And right now in the review, we're just going to ask, what were the highs and lows for each of the pillars? Again, just reflecting, learning, finding what kind of insights we can mine from them. So with each of these, what happened? What were the highs and lows? And what could we have done better? What worked well? What was effective? And again, by jumping into those dashboards, if you've taken your system all the way to building out these dashboards, which is typically the last thing. So if you're running PPV but don't have these dashboards built out, that's fine. It's really the last part of the system build. But for a few of them, like mind expansion, which is our learning pillar, or content production, or client operations, you may have those fleshed out. So jump into the ones where you have dashboards and just reflect on the highs and lows. For those you don't have actual dashboards built into these database entries, just think about them. How did things go on the health and fitness front? How did things go on the mind expansion and learning front? How did things go on the travel and exploration front, on the client operations front, on content creation, on family? Again, these are just examples too. These are not defaults for everybody. You will create your own pillars if you get into this full system. But even if you're not, just break your whole life into major categories and reflect on what worked, what didn't work, how you can do better. All right, moving on. Next, we have habits and routines. Again, we have a whole video on how to effectively implement a habits and routines system. The purpose of this database is to design your intentions, how you're going to introduce new and better habits and routines, how you're going to maintain the ones you have or build on the ones that have been serving you well. This is all about designing your intentions. The more specific, the better. Again, that video goes into detail on how to do this well. For now, we're just going to review and ask which habits and routines served me best over the past 12 months. And in the next video, we'll talk about designing and planning new habits and routines going into the new year. Again, reflect on this, identify what's working and what's not, and check out the other video if you want to go deeper into that. Value goals. Now, value goals are a unique part of the Pillars, Pipelines, and Vault system here. These are our life aspirations. They're called value goals because these are goals based on what we value most in life. They are our deepest, most emotional dreams and aspirations in life. So they're very long-term. They don't change very often. They can change anytime you want them to, but generally speaking, they are long-term life aspirations. Year after year, you're trying to move closer toward them. They are emotional. They are abstract sometimes. They're loose. They're not quantifiable in many cases, but they are your emotional expressions of the things you most want to achieve in life. Then with the goal outcomes, we translate each value goal into a step toward it that is measurable, tangible, actionable. So these two go together. but this is the high level aspirations in life. And we're just reflecting on them. Are these still your value goals? Are these still your life aspirations? Otherwise, you can adjust them. If you actually completed one, you could mark it complete, but typically these are long-term dreams. So you're not typically checking these off, and often they're moving goalposts. So they're just directions you want to move toward. Again, if you want to understand this better and you're not familiar with it, just look at the previous video on goals, particularly value goals, which go hand in hand with goal outcomes. But we lay out here all of the goal outcomes attached to each value goal, the pillars that they are serving in the pillar groups, just to structure and organize them. But we want to ask the question in the review, which of my value goals did I move forward on over the past 12 months, which did not progress, and for each case, why? Then we move on to our goal outcomes. Our goal outcomes are actionable, tangible, measurable, quantifiable goals we want to achieve in our life. Now, outcomes aren't everything. We also have habits and routines for regular practices and regular activities we're doing. We're just showing up is a success. It is not an outcome we need. There's sometimes this debate between process goals and outcome goals. It's not one or the other, it's both. It depends on the circumstance. There are some outcomes you actually want to achieve. That might be graduating from college. That might be achieving a certain milestone in your career, or it might be achieving something with your family. The other things, the result isn't what matters, but the process of showing up and doing it is what matters. Fitness, workouts, eating well. That's just the difference between habits and routines and goal outcomes. Both are important. You should be designing both in your life. Don't let anyone tell you that one matters and the other doesn't. It's not one or the other, it's both. All right, you'll get further, faster, more consistently if you implement both, depending on the circumstance. Again, we have goals and habit and routine videos that get much deeper into that. But now that we're in the more tactile, actionable, measurable, action-oriented segment, we have two views. We have a review view and a planning view. Since this is the video on the review, we're focusing on the review. In the next video, we're going to switch the view to planning. And the difference is what time period we're looking at. So the review is looking at the past 4 quarters. Planning is working at the upcoming 4 quarters, and it's going to define all these things we want to achieve and a game plan to get there. But now we're reflecting on what we did complete, so these tend to be completed. If they're not completed and they're in a past quarter and we're finishing that quarter, we need to bump it forward and reschedule it into a future quarter so we can continue working towards its completion. Goal outcomes are achieved in one of 2 ways, either through projects, which can advance and achieve goal outcomes, or through habits and routines. Every active goal outcome needs one or the other, sometimes both. We'll talk more about that in the planning segment coming up in the next video. But here we're getting a lot of insight, what worked, what didn't work. Projects, again, projects advance goal outcomes. Here we're looking at the review toggle at this stage. Now in each of these are filtered for quarters here, and these are filtered for completed and quarters here. And they're typically sorting by quarter, by date. These up here, I should point out, are simply sorted by not completed. And habits and routines aren't even filtered because if it's not an active habit and routine, you're just going to remove it. You could mark it as archived if you want to, and then have a filter for that. Okay, so we're going to review the projects we completed in the order quarter by quarter from the past year. Then we're going to look at quarters. So all these databases we've just gone through, we have checked through each of these. And now having done that, we get to quarters, which is really just a beautiful layout, a bird's eye view of everything that happened over the 4 quarters, all the projects we completed, all the goal outcomes. It's just a succinct summary, and it's nice to review that. So having done that, we are once again going to return to this segment up here, the interpretation segment. We have now perhaps jogged our memory on some more experiences through our systematic accomplishments, through the databases in which we're executing our life. And you can add to this. Come back up here, think of what new things have been uncovered through this last process and add them. And then come down and answer why those additional new ones were meaningful and impactful. And then check whether that's consistent with the values and meaningful aspects of life that you had summarized down here, and add to it. If it reveals new things, add to it. So this is sort of a final revisit of this before we complete the review. At that point, we are done with our annual review and we're ready to proceed to annual planning. So that's going to give you a lot of opportunity to reflect, understand, and interpret insights from the year you had. In the next video, we're going to look at how to apply that and design a much more effective year in the year to come. If this is of interest, be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get updates on future videos. And please hit like if you found this video valuable. Leave thoughts or questions below, or join us in the Notion Life Design course for a broader conversation. That's at notionlifedesign.com. I also write a newsletter on increasing human capability. I give away several of my best Notion templates to anyone who subscribes to the free newsletter. The newsletter link is also below in the show notes. Thanks for watching. Lots more to come.